Hello and welcome to English Vibes Hub. Today, we're talking about something really important for all of us who work or study: effective communication in the workplace. From meetings and emails to small talk, we'll cover it all to help you improve your communication skills.
That's right, Emma. Effective communication is key to success in any professional setting. It's not just about speaking fluently, but also about being clear, concise, and respectful in all your interactions. I think a lot of people struggle with this, especially when it comes to meetings and public speaking.
Absolutely, Liam. Let's start with meetings. Have you ever been in a meeting where you felt like you were going around in circles and not really getting anywhere? That's often because of poor communication. One phrasal verb that's really useful in this context is to touch base. It means to contact someone briefly to discuss something or to check on the progress of something.
Yes, I've been in those meetings. It's frustrating when you don't feel like you're making progress. The phrase "to touch base" is really helpful. For example, you might say, "Let's touch base on Friday to see how the project is going." It's a way of checking in without having to go into too much detail.
Exactly. Another phrase that's useful is to get to the point. This means to start talking about the most important part of what you want to say without wasting time on less important details. In meetings, it's crucial to get to the point quickly so that everyone can understand what needs to be done.
That makes sense. People often ramble on in meetings, and it's hard to follow what they're saying. If someone can get to the point, it makes the whole discussion much more productive. And what about emails? How can we use these phrases in written communication?
In emails, clarity is even more important because you don't have the luxury of immediate feedback or clarification. Using phrases like "to touch base" or "to get to the point" can help you write more effective emails. For instance, you might start an email by saying, "I wanted to touch base with you regarding the upcoming project," to clearly state the purpose of your email.
I see what you mean. It's about being considerate of the other person's time and making sure your message is understood. What about small talk? How does effective communication play a role there?
Small talk can be challenging, especially for non-native speakers, but it's an essential part of building relationships at work. One idiom that might be useful in small talk is to break the ice. This means to do or say something that makes people feel more comfortable and starts a conversation.
Breaking the ice is a great way to start a conversation. For example, you could say, "How was your weekend?" Or "Have you traveled anywhere exciting recently?" These questions are light and easy to answer, helping to break the ice and potentially leading to more meaningful conversations.
Right, and another idiom that's helpful is to see eye to eye. This means to agree about something. In small talk, finding common ground can make the conversation much more enjoyable and help build a connection with the other person.
I like that. Seeing eye to eye doesn't mean you have to agree on everything, but finding those points of agreement can really help move a conversation forward. It's interesting how these phrases and idioms can make such a big difference in how we communicate.
It's all about being mindful of how we express ourselves and considering our audience. Effective communication is a skill that takes practice, but with the right tools and mindset, anyone can improve. Let's dive deeper into some scenarios where these skills are particularly important.
That sounds like a great plan. I think our listeners would really benefit from hearing about real-life situations where effective communication made a significant difference. Maybe we can discuss a time when clear communication resolved a conflict or improved a working relationship.
I have a good example from my own experience. In my previous job, there was a misunderstanding between two team members that was causing tension. We decided to have an open meeting to discuss the issue and clear the air. By using "to touch base" and making sure everyone got to get to the point, we were able to resolve the issue quickly and efficiently.
That's a fantastic example, Emma. It shows how effective communication can turn a potentially negative situation into a positive one. I'm sure our listeners can think of similar situations where better communication would have made a big difference.
Definitely, and it's not just about resolving conflicts. Good communication can also lead to more innovative ideas and better teamwork. When everyone feels heard and understood, they are more likely to contribute and work together towards a common goal.
That's so true. When communication is open and effective, it fosters a more collaborative environment. People are more willing to share their ideas and listen to others, which can lead to some amazing outcomes.
Let's think about how we can apply these principles to our daily work lives. What are some strategies for improving communication in team projects or meetings?
One strategy could be to set clear goals and expectations at the beginning of a project. This way, everyone knows what they're working towards and can communicate more effectively about their progress and any challenges they're facing.
That's a great point. Clear goals and expectations can really help guide the communication process. And what about active listening? How can we make sure we're truly hearing and understanding each other?
Active listening is crucial. It means giving your full attention to the speaker, asking questions to clarify their points, and avoiding interrupting. By doing so, you ensure that you understand the message correctly and can respond appropriately.
I completely agree. Active listening shows respect for the other person and helps prevent misunderstandings. It's an essential part of effective communication in any context, whether it's a meeting, an email, or just a casual conversation.
Respect and empathy are key components of good communication. When you approach a conversation with an open mind and a willingness to understand the other person's perspective, you're more likely to have a positive and productive interaction.
Well, it looks like we've covered a lot of ground so far, but there's still more to explore. Let's keep the conversation going and see where it takes us.
Sounds good to me. I'm excited to continue this discussion and hear more about how effective communication can impact our personal and professional lives.
I completely agree, Liam. Effective communication is truly the backbone of any successful team or organization. It's amazing how a simple miscommunication can lead to huge misunderstandings and problems down the line.
Absolutely, Emma. I recall a time when I was working on a project and there was a miscommunication about the deadline. It ended up causing a lot of stress and extra work for everyone involved. But on the other hand, when communication is clear and effective, it's incredible to see how smoothly things can run.
That's a great example, Liam. And it's not just about the big things either. Even small, everyday interactions can make a huge difference. For instance, if someone touches base with their team regularly, it can help prevent misunderstandings and keep everyone on the same page. To touch base means to check in with someone or a group, briefly, to make sure everything is okay or to discuss something.
Exactly, and another important aspect is being able to pick up on nonverbal cues. If someone is not engaged in a meeting, it might be a sign that they're not interested or they don't understand something. To pick up on something means to notice or become aware of it, often without being explicitly told.
Right. Nonverbal communication is just as important as what we say. And it's also about being able to open up to your colleagues. If you create an environment where people feel comfortable sharing their thoughts and ideas, you can tap into a lot of creativity and innovation. To open up means to become more receptive or to share your thoughts and feelings more freely. And to tap into something means to access or utilize it.
I love that point, Emma. Creating a comfortable and open environment is key. It's also important to follow up on discussions and actions to ensure that everything is moving forward as planned. To follow up means to check on the progress or status of something after it's been initiated.
Let's do a quick role play to illustrate this. Imagine we're in a meeting and we need to discuss a new project. Liam, you can be the team leader, and I'll be a team member who has some concerns about the project timeline.
Sounds like a plan. Okay, Emma, so we're discussing the new marketing campaign. What are your thoughts on the proposed timeline?
Well, Liam, I think we need to push back on the deadline a bit. With the current workload, I'm not sure we can realistically meet that target without compromising the quality of our work. To push back means to resist or oppose something, often by arguing against it or suggesting an alternative.
I understand your concerns, Emma. Let's brainstorm some solutions. Maybe we can scale back some of the less critical tasks to free up more time for this project. To brainstorm means to generate a lot of ideas quickly and freely, and to scale back means to reduce the size or scope of something.
That's a great idea, Liam. And while we're at it, let's also factor in some buffer time for unexpected delays. To factor in something means to include it in your plans or calculations.
Absolutely. I think that's a good point to wrap up this meeting on. Let's summarize the actions we've discussed and make sure everyone knows their responsibilities. To wrap up means to conclude or finalize something.
Sounds good. And just to follow through on what we've discussed, let's schedule a follow-up meeting for next week to review our progress. To follow through means to take action on something you've agreed to do or discussed.
I'll send out a reminder to everyone, and in the meantime, if anyone has any questions or concerns, don't hesitate to reach out. To reach out means to contact someone for help, information, or support.
Exactly. Open communication is key to our success. Now, let's talk about how we can apply these principles to our everyday interactions, not just in meetings.
That's a great point. Even in small talk, being able to break the ice can make a big difference. To break the ice means to do or say something that helps people relax and feel more comfortable in a social situation.
Right. And once you've broken the ice, you can take it from there and build on the conversation. To take it from there means to continue something that has already been started, often without needing further instructions or guidance.
It's all about creating a positive and inclusive environment, whether it's in a meeting, an email, or just casual conversation. When we get on the same page, we can achieve so much more. To get on the same page means to reach a mutual understanding or agreement with someone.
I couldn't agree more, Liam. Effective communication is the foundation of any successful interaction, whether personal or professional. It's how we stay on track and ensure that our messages are conveyed clearly and respectfully.
And it's not just about the message itself, but also how we come across to others. Our tone, body language, and choice of words all play a role in how our message is received.
That's so true. Being mindful of how we put ourselves out, there can make a huge difference in how our communications are received and interpreted by others.
I think we've covered some really valuable points today, Emma. It's clear that effective communication is not just about conveying information, but also about building relationships and understanding each other's perspectives.
Absolutely, Liam. And there's still so much more to explore on this topic. Let's keep the conversation going and see where it takes us.
I completely agree, Emma. Mastering effective communication in the workplace can really make or break a team's productivity and overall success. One thing that I think is really important is being able to touch base with your colleagues regularly.
That's so true, Liam. Touching base is a great way to keep everyone on the same page and make sure you're all working towards the same goals. It can be as simple as sending a quick email or having a brief meeting to discuss any updates or changes.
Exactly, and it's also important to follow up with your team members after meetings or discussions to make sure they have all the information they need and are on track to meet their deadlines.
Absolutely. Following up shows that you're invested in the project's success and care about your team members' progress. It can also help to iron out any issues or problems that may have arisen since the last meeting.
I like that phrase, iron out. It's a great way to describe the process of smoothing out any wrinkles or difficulties in a project. And speaking of projects, I think it's also important to see something through to its completion, even when things get tough or challenging.
That's such a valuable lesson, Liam. Seeing something through requires perseverance, dedication, and a willingness to adapt to changing circumstances. It's not always easy, but it's often necessary for achieving our goals and realizing our vision.
I think that's one of the most important things we can learn from this conversation, Emma. Effective communication is key to success in the workplace, and it's something that we can all work on and improve every day.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today, Liam, and I hope our listeners have found this conversation helpful and informative. Let's try to wrap up by summarizing some of the main points we've discussed.
Sounds like a plan, Emma. To wrap up, I think we can say that effective communication is essential for success in the workplace, and it involves being able to clearly express ourselves, listen actively, and work collaboratively with our team members.
That's a great summary, Liam. And I think we can also say that mastering meetings, emails, and small talk are all important skills for achieving effective communication in the workplace.
Absolutely. And finally, I think it's worth noting that effective communication is a skill that can be developed and improved over time with practice, patience, and persistence.
Well said, Liam. I think that's a great note to end on. Now, let's bring it all together by thinking about how we can apply these skills and principles in our own workplaces and lives.
I think that's a great idea, Emma. By bringing it all together, we can create a more positive, productive, and supportive work environment that benefits everyone involved.
I couldn't agree more, Liam. And I think that's a great way to round off our conversation today.
Well, it's been a pleasure chatting with you, Emma, and I hope our listeners have enjoyed this conversation as much as I have.
The pleasure's been mine, Liam. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to this episode of English Vibes Hub. If you liked this conversation, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more episodes on English language and culture.
And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date on all our latest episodes and content. We'll see you in the next one, and thanks again for listening to English Vibes Hub.